Welcome to Decades, hosted by Chris Rubio. Decades is a show made up of 5 generations of people brought together to discuss topics you wouldn't normally talk about with others. The goal of the show is to learn by having some good, possibly heated discussions, without losing the simple fact that it's okay to talk to different people with different opinions other than your own.
What's going on? My name is Chris Rubio, host of Decades. We have got a packed show. Guys, I don't know what we should talk about. Not much has really happened in the past 24 hours. I see we've got TC and ZZ. What's going on, Zach? We've got Nick, we've got the Crazy Man. We've got Alex on tech. We've got Bill Geiser. We've got Charles Walls, otherwise known as Chalice. He's going his, what is that? Who's that Robert De Niro character that I said you look like? Or Al Pacino?
It escapes me. Is that a ferret?
No, Bill Geiser will know. I said it once before. Damn it, I can't even think of it anyway. Anyway, we've got a great show. Guys, I don't know if you've been paying attention to anything on the mainstream media or the news, but there was a little election yesterday in the United States of America. And according to mainstream media, it was supposed to be neck and neck. And it turns out El Trumpo and the Republicans kind of wiped the floor. He got the electoral votes. He got the popular vote, got the Senate, looks to get the House. So the polls were either super wrong. And after a while, everyone started to just realize, okay, the polls are wrong. But the only two that I saw that were right were Kalshi and Polymarket, and those are the gambling polls. So we can talk about that as well. Bill Geiser, we're going to start with you. What the hell happened?
Well, I would just like to remind my fellow panelists, and Ed, you in particular, that I called it, buddy.
Yes,
I said Trump was going to win bigly. And
hey, Bill, I told
Alex
somebody
did
that
too.
you was calling.
Alex
yeah,
did
go
too.
ahead, man.
bigly,
Yes,
just landslide.
you did. Absolutely.
And he did. I mean, I got a lot of different thoughts on this, but the fact of the matter is the DNC, America ain't buying what the DNC was selling. That's what happened. That's why you saw a mass rejection of them. But it's even deeper than that. I mean, the Democratic National Party is fucking evil. They are just absolute, they're criminals. I mean, if you think about it, look what they did. I mean, here's a fair election, right? I'm going to rattle off some things. Number one, they blocked Bernie. All right. They discarded and defamed Tulsi Gabbard. They fucked over Iron Man, Elon Musk. They ran him off. He was a lifelong liberal. They ran him out of the party, and then they insulted him by not inviting him to the White House EV summit. They brought in GM, said GM is the world leader in EVs. That quarter, they shipped 27 cars. Elon shipped 300,000. What the fuck?
Bill Geiser, hold on.
Keep going. They blocked our.
Hold on. Bill Geiser, hold on 1 second. Not everyone's going to be as informed as you are. So when you say they did this to Tulsi Gabbard, or they did this to Iron Man, or they did this to Bernie Sanders, give us a little bullet point of what you mean, because I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm afraid a lot of people won't know.
So if you think about back in 2016, Bernie was actually the leading Democratic candidate for the Democratic nominee. And I think he would have beat Trump in a head-to-head contest. But the DNC essentially did to him what they did to Joey B, which is got out the hook and pulled him off stage. They've insulted and run Tulsi out of the party. She headed up the DNC, if you remember. They embraced wokeism, identity politics. They demonized every hetero male in America. Every single one of them. And they further insulted every male in America by telling them if you don't vote for Kamala, you're a racist. You're a misogynist. So, as we were talking before we went live, people are tired of being lectured by these assholes. They got what they deserve. Fuck them. No one is buying the shit they're selling. Mic drop.
Drops.
And that's our show for tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Bill wins.
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
You should be.
So
They have put this
hold on,
country
let's-
through the ringer needlessly. It's time to get the adults back in control. Let's have civil conversations. We don't have to agree. I mean, look what Trump did in bringing former Democrats into his organization and saying, let's sort this shit out. Let's fix things.
so
Let's
we
work
went,
on real problems, not all
Yeah.
this made up stuff.
we've got Bill Geiser, who's the oldest. Let's go to the youngest, Charles Wallace. What's your take on what happened in the last 12, 15 hours?
Yeah, I think Bill summed it up pretty good. I think that the media, like they often do, they overestimated themselves and what they wanted. They underestimated the rest of the country. And I wasn't surprised by how much they were acting like it was close, but to me it was like, okay, it's like 7:00. We know he's going to win. Let's just get this wrapped up. And then they keep you up until 2:00 in the morning because they won't announce states that he already, it's 96% in, too close to call.
We're not calling it.
Yeah. And they just refused to call it. It just kept me up longer than I needed to be up. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay. Nick Humble, and then we'll go to TC, then Crazy Man, then Gru.
It's a presidential election. Is my life going to change because of it? A little bit. Are things going to get easier for me? A little bit. But the fucking lefties that are minds are exploding. It blows my mind how the resiliency in this country is fucking zero for about a third of them. Right? We had what do we have? 120 million fucking people last night voted, and probably 50 million of those are just bad shit crazy. And just, oh my God, the world's going to fucking end. I have less rights today than yesterday. Right? What the fuck are you talking about? What rights just walked away? It was a presidential election. That's
Humble, do you feel that those people are, let's go, insane, or do you think that they're dumb? Or have they been brainwashed?
I think it's this. It's like my grandmother's 92 years old, right? And she literally thinks that Trump is the fucking devil. And it's because all she does is sit at home in her fucking chair and eat pudding and fucking cottage cheese and stare at CNN or Fox News or some of that bullshit or the nightly news. And Lester Holt tells her what a fucking racist and misogynist and Hitler Trump is, and they believe it. Look at this. Perfect example. He says Liz Cheney is a fucking war hawk and he wants to send her to combat. And when she's got 9 barrels pointing back at her, she might want to fucking rethink sending people to war. The next thing you know, CNN is telling everybody that he said he wanted to put her in front of a firing squad. And my aunt believed that shit. She called me yesterday. She was like, I don't know who to vote for. Trump said he wanted to put her in front of a firing squad. What the fuck are you? And I just think that people of that age, boomers, no offense to boomers, but fucking half of the boomers in this country got applesauce for brains, and they're still stuck on how Russia was the Cold War and we can't get past it. And everybody's a fucking racist or a misogynist, and everybody's Hitler. And like Bill said, they've hung not just the Democratic Party out to dry, but they've brainwashed a third of those people, and they've just pissed off the rest of the fucking people in this country. These kids have zero resiliency. This is what happens when you give everybody a fucking trophy, man. There are people crying over an election, crying.
TC and ZC, what do you guys think? We got a father-son combo out here. Zach, what's your thoughts on this? You're also a youngin.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know how it was going to go. I figured 2 a.m. would be another spike or dip like it was last election. So I was happily surprised this morning. I didn't stay up late to watch it. I'm in Alabama, so everybody that I saw today was pretty excited. It doesn't change. I mean, it doesn't really change our life too much. So I do want to. I'm going to push back a little bit on the younger kids being upset. I think and boomers and TV and stuff. I think the older generation, at least here, is way worse at just listening to whatever or believing one party or the other. I think I agree with you, Nick. Everybody's watching TV, and the older generation, some of them struggle really bad to just listen and take whatever they hear on the news. I think a lot of that's just a generational thing because the news used to mean something and used to have a lot of truth. And so it's already like they already are in that mindset that, hey, if it's on the TV, that's good stuff that's been vetted, and it's just not. And so I have Trump supporters and Democrats that will just spout out all this nonsense because they heard it on TV, and you're like, whoa, like I agree, like I'm kind of for Trump, but that's not true. Or so that's definitely a huge problem down here because it's a mess.
Jim S. just writes, Dems need a lesson in self-reflection. If you do way more wrong than right, own it and admit it. Well, I agree with you, but Jim, I just, it's from all I'm seeing over and over and over, because I'm watching, like, I was like humble. I was watching PDB. PBD. I was watching the Rubin Report. I was watching the Daily Wire. I was watching CNN. I was watching MSNBC. I was watching Fox. I was watching Newsmax. I was watching them all last night. And even towards the end, CNN was still just like, yeah, we just can't figure it out. It's like people just didn't want a black woman. It's like, guys, it's just, maybe it's a bad candidate. Maybe this is just not it. Gru, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of knew that Trump was going to win by simply seeing Kamala's, advertisement in California, which I have never seen before. Okay, and I only saw a few Harris Walls lawn signs on my street. Used to be like every other house, but I only saw two. I knew, Trump was going to win and Democrats are in trouble. Okay, and also somebody was saying, like, I think it was either Nick or Craig were saying, oh, it's going to be a mess, the departments are buying ammo, it's going to be a big fuck-ups if Trump wins. I haven't seen it yet, at least not in Los Angeles, okay? I mean, it's all quiet, I was out today when I went to my eye doctor. I mean, I didn't see anybody protesting or anybody's trying to create some shit. So, which is, it's a good sign.
Crazy man, how was the schools?
Definitely. Since I work in elementary, a lot of the teachers were upset about it because most teachers follow the Democrats, and they believe that that life is going to make it easier. I agree with Nick that our society has definitely is polarized. I mean, they were WTOP was talking about how Harris was one of her speech as she was giving up, and you had them interviewing some of the college kids, and they're saying, well, a black man goes, well, unfortunately, I have no faith in America because America's racist. They're sexist because they don't want to elect a black female president. So you can see how that whole party is that people are looking at from black and white. But truthfully, did the Democrats do it to themselves? Because 100 days out, it's not a lot to really get the momentum going. And they were definitely playing on the big cities like Atlanta and Philadelphia to carry those states where the rest of the country, the rest of the states didn't buy into it. They didn't believe. They were basically going on with their pocketbook. They were voting on their pocketbook. What would make their life a lot easier.
Well, and it just shows how bad of a candidate she was, because she spent $1 billion with a B, $1 billion on her campaign. She had countless celebrity endorsements, which obviously proved to mean nothing. She had brought out Beyonce, Bruce Springsteen, all that. And then she had, I think the most powerful thing, she had the media propaganda machine that was just funneling like a fire hose, drinking from a fire hose, how great she was. And anyone that just had some common sense was watching going, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not seeing it. It was very similar to me, like when Joey B is so cognizant. He's great. He's sharp as a tack. And you're like, dude, what are you talking about? I mean, that's where I think they kind of lost people. Chalice, where do you think Kamala's campaign lost your group of voters? Let's say the under 30 males.
I think they lost. I mean, I think they lost it. I think the Democratic Party is rapidly losing under 30 males because of the rhetoric that they use. And even it's not under 30 males, but like this morning, my mom was watching The View. She doesn't watch The View, but she wanted to watch it today to see them freak out. And she was watching The View, and the one woman on the panel, like 4 times in a minute, like it was maybe a 2-minute span where she was giving her 2 cents on it. 4 different times she said uneducated white women failed Kamala Harris. She explicitly said uneducated. So I think it's not only Kamala Harris, I think it's the entire Democratic Party doesn't talk to voters, they talk at voters. And if the voters don't take to the messaging, they talk down to voters. And that's never going to work. Like if you're trying to get people on your side, talking down to them and being like, you uneducated idiots, why aren't you voting for us? You're going to get people that are going to vote for the other side just because the other side's not telling us we're stupid.
Bill Geiser, how did they lose your generation?
They're all dead.
Yeah, they're all dead. I'm the last man standing. I wanted to just follow on something Chalice said, which is I think when the history of this election is written 10, 15, 20 years from now, what they're going to realize is that half of America came to the realization that they were being manipulated by the mainstream media. And as a result, they started to go to X and podcasts, Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, people like that for information. I think what Trump did, some of it was forced on him. He had some of the same problems that RFK did, which is mainstream media wouldn't even interview RFK, because the DNC elders said, you're not going to talk to this guy. We don't want him to run. And so what Trump did was figure out a very disruptive way to talk directly to consumers, bypassing mainstream media. And you know what? They're going to be the big loser as a result of this. I think people now realize, hey, this Joe Rogan is kind of an interesting guy, and we can have really interesting long-form conversations where I can truly get to know who this candidate is. Not just what their policies are, but who are they as a real human being? What are their values? Where they come from? What's their story? That's what we want as human beings. We want to vote for somebody that's authentic. And in that regard, Trump is very authentic. Granted, he's not for everybody. He's I'll call it an acquired taste.
Yes.
But he's authentic. You know where he's coming from, and he's very consistent. Whereas you couldn't really tell what Kamala's about. I have no idea what her story is. She just seems to kind of blow in the wind.
I think she
no pun intended.
Don't say blow. That's the wrong thing to say.
Crazy man.
I think she was playing for due to the fact that Trump had all those indictments. She was playing to her that she is a woman, that she is also a black woman. So I think she was trying to play those cards to get those votes. But if you look at the Latinos, came out in force and voted more for Trump than for Harris. And even after he said about getting rid of all the illegals, he still came out and voted. The Latino vote came out.
You think that's a values thing?
I think the Latinos are very conservative, and they're
I think it's a pocketbook thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, definitely. So, I mean, look at it how it is. It's that people got tired of listening to all the lies.
Yeah.
Do you think that Joey B's comments also played into like just fucking her over, like when he decided a week out from it to be like, hey, all Trump supporters are garbage?
Do you think that could have been a ploy because he was pissed?
Yeah, he's pissed.
I mean, do you
Look
think
at the dress
Joey B is
Jill
sitting back
wore
there
to vote.
smiling his ass off?
Well, you got to think of this. Number one, he dropped that like 72 hours before people are voting. Number one, okay, major, and that was during her big speech at the Ellipsis or whatever it's called, right there near the Capitol, at the exact same time. So you ask anybody, even a big Dem, what'd you think of her speech? And no one remembers one thing of her speech because he just vacuum sucked the entire media circus right there with his garbage comment. And then did you notice, Umball, I saw that you watched it. I watched clips of it. During her speech today, she never once talked about Joey B. Kamala.
Correct.
I watched CNN. Like, I like to watch. I know it sounds crazy. I like to watch everything because I want to hear what everyone is saying.
100%.
And CNN was like, there she went again. She didn't mention. She never said Joe Biden. She said,
Yeah.
I would like to thank the president and Dr. Biden, but she never once said, she has not said Joe Biden's name in like 3 weeks. That's what CNN's been keeping count.
TC, do you think that Joey B kind of set her up because he was pissed? Because word around town is that Jill Biden is still pissed from the 2019 election when Kamala called Joey B a racist. And like, she's just never let that go. That's the word going around. So do you think that Joey B did some of this on purpose, or do you think his brain is tapioca and doesn't know?
Yeah, if he did it, it's completely inadvertent. It's probably the first good thing he's done in his presidency. But I mean, I don't. Yeah, his brain is just oatmeal at this point. But now that I finally get to speak, I did have a couple things I wanted to say. I had a friend send me a letter earlier today that students got at the college. Is it okay if I share that, Rubio?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So this went out at 7:06 this morning, 7:40 this morning. Dear students, I am canceling class today to grieve the presidential election results. As a queer immigrant woman of color, COLOUR, I cannot in good conscience go on about my day like everything is all right. This is a major historical event that we are witnessing. I hope you take this time to take care of yourself. I will post about the next steps regarding this class soon. I will see you in person on the 11/11. Having said that, please know that no matter your political beliefs, you are welcome in my class and won't be discriminated against in any way. Please reach out to me if you want to talk, Professor blah, 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 blah. That was at a college.
That's not new.
I know.
When I was at Lindenwood, when Trump got elected the first time, I was just having this conversation when I came on. My teacher showed up for my 8 o'clock class at 8:30, eyes bloodshot red. I was playing college football. I was in the middle of the season, and she shows up like 30 minutes late. We're like, me and another guy that was older, like walking out. She's like, where are you guys going? I'm like, you're 30 minutes late to class. Like, that time's ellipsed. And they cut classes. They stopped tests. They offered 3 days. You could take 3 days. You could take the rest of the week off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you wanted to. And they canceled every test for the rest of the week. And if you needed counseling, they had counselors standing by. It was like, holy shit, I didn't get this. I've had buddies shot in front of me like, fuck. Next day, we're going back out the wire. I didn't get any fucking counseling or any of that shit. I'm like, this is a presidential election. You guys are all pussies. And that's just how I know I had a different life, but I couldn't believe it. I was shocked that that's how a college acted.
Okay, Charles, go ahead. You had your hand up. Then I'm going to come to you, Pete. We're just basically talking about what happened within the last 24 hours, what your thoughts are. Go ahead, Charles.
The same thing happened. I was a freshman in college in 2016, and my school the next day, that night when it happened, there were people crying and stuff, and it was just a shit show. And then the next day I was walking to class, and you have to like walk through this common area, and they had emotional support dogs in the common area for kids to like, you know, decompress or whatever.
Where'd you go to college, Chalice?
McDaniel College. It's in Maryland. But
Wow.
I mean, it was just crazy. And I was like the only like non-lib in the entire place, and I was just cracking up the whole time. Like I thought, like, because there was no world where if the results were flipped that I would have been like freaking out. Like, you know, I still got to go to class. I still got wrestling practice after this. I don't have time for this. And like the entire school was essentially like shut down for a couple of days. It was crazy.
That's wild. Pete, welcome to the Decades Show. You see, we're just talking about what are your thoughts on how or what happened last night? How did it happen?
Are we talking football? What are we talking about?
No, we're talking,
Mac.
we're talking the election.
The election.
The election. Now I know what you're talking about. Well, thank you for having me, Chris. Ed, good to see you again. I was on last night. That was fun. Good to see some of you that I saw last night. You know, disappointed. I'm disappointed. But, you know, I'll speak my mind. I don't think Kamala lost the race. I think the Democratic Party, no, she lost the race. The easy TC or ZC, I don't know which one you are. Let's not have visceral reactions. I'm keeping my visceral reactions in check while you guys talk. But I think the Democratic Party didn't message correctly. Didn't listen to the real hardships and real life experiences that most people are facing in the country. We can go on and on about two-party system. We did a little bit of that last night. Like, I don't think either party. We need more parties that can speak to what real Americans are going through. So yeah, I'm disappointed, but yet I'm still disappointed. I wish she had won. I think it would be better for our country that she won. But you know, sorry I was late, by the way, because I was rioting. I was rioting in Times Square. So and it took a little longer. Antifa was late, so they showed up. No, but seriously, like, no, it's suppressing. Look, we all, I think a lot of us have kids here. I know. Was it TC? Zach, you have 5 kids, right?
We both have 5 kids.
Yeah, you both have 5 kids. So I have 3 kids, and they're 24, 21, and 19. My youngest is adopted from Ethiopia. He's obviously African looking and black. We spent most of the last 3 years of the first Trump administration in Denmark. So he was living in a bubble. And I really do fear for a lot of what I see as I'm not talking about people in this room, but I'm talking about there's a lot of racism. There's a lot of not even microaggressions, but macroaggressions that I'm afraid that he's going to see as he gets into the world. And I feel like having a convicted actually 34 count felon and adjudicated rapist and all the other things as the president of the United States gives license or gives permission for some people to work on the worst part, to express the worst parts of their nature. And I went there immediately with my son, who's 19, because he moves through the world a lot differently than I do.
Hey, Pete, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You said the Democratic Party failed. Do you think they failed in putting Kamala up as the presidential candidate? Like, would you have thought? Do you think somebody else would have been better?
I think Biden was the wrong candidate. I thought Biden was wrong. He said it was going to be 1 term, and then he went back from that. Right? He should have stepped down a long time ago so that we could have had a primary process. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, and you guys know this, the Republican Party as well. It's a club. It has its own rules.
Oh, right.
So you can do whatever you want. There's no like human rules to that shit. Right? But I just think. It was accelerated. On the one hand, I love the 100-day thing. I wish both parties did 100 days. It's very much like what they do in the UK. Like, it's going to cost less, and you're going to force the candidates to engage and with the public and really have debates. That's my opinion. So I love the 100 days thing, but I wish that she had been vetted against other candidates better. And
She
also,
spent $1 billion. Cost less.
Yeah.
pardon me.
She spent $1 billion, and you're saying,
But she had to start. Hey, Bill, she started from.
She would have spent $2 billion.
No, she started from 0 and she had 100 days. So I'm saying if she had, look, how much did the Republican Party spend? How much did Trump spend? You know how much Kamala spent?
I don't know, but I'm sure
probably a lot, right?
330 million.
That all right. Well, let's check that because in the Ohio Senate race with Sherrod Brown that he lost, I brought this up yesterday because I saw it yesterday afternoon on CNN or Fox. They spent for one Senate seat $497 million. That's insane. That shouldn't exist. I don't think. Anyway, I'm for like public funding of campaigns so that you keep the cost down, and I believe it would force the candidates to really engage with the electorate. That's my opinion.
Okay. I wanted to go back to the racism thing because Zach, don't you have a black child as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do you? And by the way, your Alabama accent's phenomenal. It's the first time hearing about it. I wish we had more accents. That's great. I love Gru's accent as well, but he only gets fired up when we talk about Charlie Sheen or Bud Light. So Zach, you feel the same way that Pete does, having a black child, while you're worried about Trump because of racism?
So there is some differences. I feel with Pete on some of those things. So being in Alabama, there is definitely some stereotypes that are affiliated with race. I mean, there is. This is not me against cops at all, but I do have to teach my son to when he's pulled over to be professional and above. That I necessarily wouldn't have to teach my daughters the same thing. Who are white blonde hair, and that's not because every cop is bad, but if there is one that is, I have to prepare him for that.
Yeah, Zach. I mean, you've had the talk. With.
He's only 7. This is things
okay.
like
mine's 19. But when my son once he became taller than 4 feet, cops started stopping him running around Brooklyn on the street, but they didn't stop my other kids. So. I don't know how my son's name is Yobi. I can't really understand how he moves through the world, right? But as a parent, I can just arm him like you, Zach, like with explain to him what he has to do. But I also have to explain to my other kids because they take after me and they're kind of smart asses, all 3 of them. So the white ones can get away with more smart assness than Yobi can. And so if they're together, again, it's not saying cops are bad. I agree with Zach. Not all cops are bad. But in that interaction, which is heightened emotion, could be heightened danger. If my son Oscar mouths off to a cop or Yobi does, they're going to be treated differently.
Well, that depends on the cop, and I think every adult father has the exact same conversation. And if you don't, you would be an idiot. I'm not saying you're an idiot, Pete. I'm saying the father would be an idiot once your kid becomes somewhat of a teenager or over 4 foot tall or whatever, and he's running the streets of Brooklyn. You'd have to say, hey man, if a cop comes up to you, don't be an asshole. You put your hands on the whatever thing. I mean, I literally just did that 2-3 years ago. I got pulled over with both of my kids in the car, and I said, guys, watch exactly what I do. So when this happens to you, you don't get shot in the damn face for being an asshole. And I said, I'm taking my wallet out. I'm putting it on the dash. I'm putting the keys right there. I'm rolling my window down. I had my hands like this. And I said, hey, what can I do? What did I do wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I got let go because I wasn't an asshole. And you know what? I was 90 shades darker than the cop that pulled me over. And I was in deep Idaho. But it was one of those things that, yeah, you have to have a conversation. But I wanted to go back. Okay, and yeah, Scarano says, unfortunately, racism exists with or without Trump as president. I wanted to go back, Pete, because I got it. Racism happens. You both admitted it. Okay, wonderful. We all know that. I'm not saying that's a great thing, but I'm not saying, there's also left-handers and redheads, and it is what it is in life.
Well, I appreciate your comment, but racism is not a predilection to use the left hand or right hand. It's different.
I know. I'm saying it's something that exists. But there could be people that could be against left-handers or people that hate redheads. Why? because they're redheaded. I'm just saying that. Sure, people might hate Groot because he's from Ukraine. People might hate Bill Geiser because he's from Florida and he swims. And I'm saying, understand that, yes, racism is about color. I got that. I wanted to go back to the issue of you feel a little bit more nervous due to the fact that you have a Ethiopian son who's darker because now Trump is in presidency. I wanted to know why you felt that way.
Because again, I think just because, and this is my opinion, but
100%,
I don't believe that Trump has high moral character. I don't think he's a good person. That doesn't mean I think he's going to want to deliberately do harm to people or the United States. But I would not hire him for my company. I would not hire him to babysit my kids. I would not want to have a beer with him. Okay.
But what does that have to do with racism?
Can I finish my thought?
Oh, yeah. My bad. I thought you were done.
No, I'm not done. So that type of low moral character, again, in my opinion, gives permission to people that are racist or have animus towards whatever group, left-handers, redheads, because at the top of our structure, of our societal structure, is someone that seems to have gotten away with everything he does what he wants and gets away with it. If you or I did anything, I don't want to get into the details, just in general, it gives license to bad behavior and our worst impulses. That's my belief. And so I feel like
the same would be true with Bill Clinton then.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I would agree. But please let's not bring up Hillary and Monica Lewinsky. But no, I agree. Not everyone's perfect.
It's moral character, right?
Moral character. But do you where would you put between Bill Clinton, between Trump, Bill Clinton, and George Bush Jr., where do you put George Bush in that range?
Morally?
Which one, the kid or the old man?
They're all the same.
I said junior.
What are we basing morals upon? Are we going down the biblical rabbit hole of what are morals?
Yeah.
Hell no. We're going. How do you walk through life? Do unto others as you want to be to be done to yourself. Yeah, that's as biblical as I'll get. Yeah.
That depends on what you're talking about with Junior. That fucker drugged me into Iraq for 2 goddamn rotations, and it was a bullshit war.
There you go. Okay.
But he wasn't. He's not going to own it, right? But
no,
there's a lot of other
Cheney.
But I'm just saying. But I'm saying to you,
every president we've had, Nixon had a low moral character. Clinton had a low moral character. Bush had a low moral character. I dare say Obama had one. I damn sure know that Joey B's got a low moral character. That dude signed a crime bill that filled the prisons with 70% black men off a crime bill.
Yep, that's true.
Like, let's talk about Kamala. All these politicians are the same. So it doesn't matter where they're at. I've said it I got a friend of mine I talk to all the time, Jay. And I tell Jay, I want the cards to fall. I want the Epstein list to come out. I want Diddy's list to come out. I want to watch every politician that's in the House. I don't give a shit what party they're a part of. I want every one of them held accountable. Because if it was me, I would be damn sure held accountable. And
including Trump, because he's got connections to Epstein and Diddy.
Everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Good.
I don't care who they are. It doesn't matter.
I'll make a comment though. I don't think you can become president of the United States and be a good person. I think the process is seriously. I think the process is so weird, distorted, hard that you got to be kind of a motherfucker to do it.
I think it also. I agree with you, Bill. I think it also self-selects for some level of narcissism, right?
Yes, yes. Even guys like Jimmy Carter. I used to hear stories about Jimmy Carter behind the scenes was one tough dude. He didn't come across that way, but
it also sounds like the job sucks.
It is. It's a hard job, and to get there, you're knifing a whole bunch of people along the way.
I mean, I think maybe some CEOs at like high level with big global corporations might be the same thing.
Absolutely. Big corporations aren't much different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we have so many laws. Think about the shit we did with miners. That's how unions got started. Fucking oil companies dumping shit in rivers.
Like, no, you can't. Your 14-year-old can't work in the mines anymore. It sucks.
Yeah,
that was good money.
Okay, so
I think we're getting off track here.
Well, we are getting off track, but I still wanted to. I want to come back to this race thing because El Trumpo was never considered a racist before he was a politician. I mean, he's the one who flew Nelson Mandela back on his private plane.
I don't know that story, but what about? Sorry, Chris, but what about when he was charged with discrimination against African American people renting his apartments in the early 90s. What about that?
Okay. But what I'm saying is this. I'm saying, I'm going back to that. I'm saying, are we still talking about so if you have a lower, more high ground, that means you're more racist and you shouldn't be a politician? Or
No, I'm saying, like, we talked a little bit about the lack of respect for institutions, like in younger generations yesterday, a little bit. And again, like, I grew up in New York and then Northern Virginia. I know Ed from high school. And, my dad was in the FBI. My mom was in the CIA. So I was in like federal type people circles. And there was a respect for every institution of the government, including the White House. Right. I don't remember like you looked up to the president, you looked up to a senator. That doesn't really happen anymore. That might be because we're in this social media cycle where we know too much about everybody. But I think that and to Bill's point, maybe that's just the type of people now that are going to be going into these jobs. But I think at least there should be a public face of some moral character, of some higher way to conduct yourself in the world for the common good that you can look up to as a society, whether you're young or old or middle age, right? That's what I believe. I just don't think politicians are like that anymore. I wish they were. I wish, the Supreme Court, I wish Senate, I wish that was the case, but it doesn't seem to be that case anymore. And my argument is, Trump just doesn't seem like a good person. He doesn't seem like a good person, and he's going to be in our. Go ahead, Chalice. Go ahead.
I've been
sorry,
I've been itching for a few minutes, guys. I'm still confused on how we started this. How does Donald Trump being in office, and this is a genuine question, it's not to be rhetorical, make it more dangerous for a black man or woman or child in America than if it wasn't Donald Trump?
Well, again, maybe you guys talked about this already, but what happened at that last rally? Yes, it was a comedian, but he was vetted by the Trump organization, and he was calling Puerto Ricans trash.
He said Puerto Rico is a floating landfill.
Right. So where are you from, Charles?
Philadelphia.
Okay, well, that is a floating landfill. That's a landfill. No, I'm kidding. But like, it's a shithole. It's a shithole, right? But you love your shithole, right? Puerto Rico.
If someone called it a shithole, though, I'd be like, yeah, it is a shithole. I want to get it cleaned up.
But I'm half Ecuadorian. I'm Hispanic. I don't know the ethnicity of everybody on this panel. I've identified Latino my whole life. I don't like the way he spoke about Latinos. I don't like the way his administration treated people of color and women. I just don't think people should be treated that way. So it's racism, it's misogyny. It's not. Look, you guys were talking about the election. It wasn't Latinos. 57% of the white men and white women made up 57% of the people that voted for Trump, the electorate, and they went for Trump more than any other group. Latino men, Latino women, all went for Kamala Harris. Gen X. Okay, you guys look up Reuters, Edison research. I can't figure out how to put it in the chat, but it's something that came across my feed yesterday. And it breaks it down by sex and gender and ethnicity.
A lot of places in Texas, the Latino voted for Trump.
No, I'm sure. No, yeah, but the majority. You guys were saying the majority when I came on. That's not true. The majority. It was like 56-43 or 57-43, maybe a little bit less than that.
No, when you're talking about racism, what do you feel about Clinton when he went blackface as for a Halloween costume? Back in the day.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Honestly, I don't.
I mean,
but I still don't understand how it's more dangerous. Like, if you don't,
because it gives license. It gives what I'm trying to say. It gives license. If that's the president, if that's what is the head of our society for good or ill, right? That's the way we're set up right now. That is someone you look up to, whether literally or just a society. You're going to see that person setting the tone. I don't think it's fair that the president should set the moral tone, but to some degree they do, right? When there's disasters, when something bad happens, when something good happens, when a bad guy is killed, the president is what is speaking to the country. It has to have some connection to the country. I don't think that Trump cares about anyone but one, Trump, and two, white rich people. That's what I believe.
But so you think now that there's going to be like,
yes,
white people are going to take to the streets vigilante style and start attacking minorities?
Like I said, it gives license. Doesn't mean everyone's going to act on it. It gives license to people.
So if you care though about the safety of minorities, wouldn't the biggest issue then be black on black crime, not white on black or white on Latino? Wouldn't it be black on black? Because I
think all crime's bad. I don't break that down.
But more
Does
specifically,
Donald Trump embolden the black people to hurt other black people?
No, but crime was up under Trump. You guys know this, right? Crime was up under Trump.
Yeah, I know, but there's been a definite switch in urban prosecution on letting criminals go. And basically,
whatever the cashless bail thing. And I'll be honest, I don't 100% understand that cashless bail thing. What I do understand about it, and I'm not condoning it. It was, I think, part of it is to. I don't think it was supposed to be for violent criminals, but it was to like unclog the backlog of cases. That's what I think part of it was. Again, I'm not condoning it. That's just all I know about it. But
I mean, the point I was making is, if you permit that, it sends a message that it's okay, and forget about whether they're looking at the president for moral direction. At this point, they're looking at their buddy who's got $950 in his pocket, and he got away with it free and said, "Fuck it, I'm going to go do the same thing."
Yep,
$950. I can go into Walgreens.
I can't condone that. I don't condone
walk
that.
out with $950 and they want to arrest me. Holy shit!
But do you guys really believe that you can walk in and shoplift under $1,000 in California?
Yes.
100%.
San Francisco.
100%. What are we doing here, guys? Let's go to San Francisco.
Yes.
Let's go to San Francisco and loot a store. Come on.
Because we have morals.
That happens
all the time.
Actually happens.
I have a buddy that lives in Seattle. He tells me he has to go to a different grocery store because it happens so often that he's become like the vigilante where he stops it and they're like, we can't do anything. And he was just in San Francisco the exact same way. I have family and friends in Los Angeles. It's the exact same way. So yes, Pete, that is a 100% a real thing. And so yes, it's under. That's why you see a lot of with those stores, they get smart and they're like, every single thing priced is $950, even a stick of gum or deodorant. But he goes, as soon as you get to the counter, then I show you the real price. It's one of those things. I wanted to jump back. Go ahead. I wanted to jump back a little bit where you said the president should have more of a moral compass, whatever, things like that. And I get it, but that's not real world. I mean, at this point, we've hit the last presidential election where no one that runs for president ever again will not have a social media trail. Anyone that has somewhat of a social media trail is going to have a trail of shit. And it's one of those things that, and honestly, when I teach my three boys, I teach them, okay, here's the top dog. And no one's going to be perfect. JC or TC, Jesus, you're the most religious person here, for my opinion. You would say your moral high ground would be JC. Mr. Jesus, he'd be up there, and no one's going to compare to that dude, in your opinion. Okay, so we realize that no human is perfect, and you could say like, okay, Trump, yeah, I don't like the way he does this. He's misogynist. But then couldn't someone just look at Kamala and say, well, I don't like how she had an extramarital affair to get going?
Yeah, they could. Okay,
so then why would you pick one and not the other?
Well, because I think that Trump's moral character is lower, and but the reason I didn't vote for him was for his policies. That's why I voted for Kamala, because I believe her policies would do better for society. I have never voted for the winner. I vote for policy. Maybe when I was younger, I probably voted for who I thought was going to win when I was a teenager with Ed, but policy is what I vote on. But I mean, just real quick, Ed and I went to high school together with Kevin Cuccinelli, whose older brother is Ken Cuccinelli. I'm sure you're familiar who Ken Cuccinelli is, right? Yes.
No.
He was the Attorney General of Virginia. He's Republican. He was Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security under Trump. No? Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. He's a big deal. Yeah. And he's a big deal. He, just to your question, Chris, about, I think you're right. I mean, that every we're in the era now that everyone's gonna have a social media presence, right? But I would posit to you two things. One, I bet you everyone who runs for president after after this election, all of a sudden there's going to be a black hole at some point in their social media. You know what I mean? They're gonna clean or delete, or somehow there's going to be a service for people running for president that we're not going to see what they're like in middle school. That's one. Two. But Ken Cuccinelli, even in high school, would not let you take a picture of him with a beer at a party because he knew he was going to go into politics. I'm not saying that that's just one story anecdotally. And I'm not calling it moral character, but he was already framing his like
legacy.
His legacy or his presence, his just what he did, his pre-public life while he's living his pre-public life, because he knew he wanted to live a public life. Now, I think that's a lot to ask of a 17-year-old, but he was one person that did that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that do that. I'm sure there's lots of squeaky clean people on every side of the aisle that do that to go into public life. But to your point, Chris, yeah, I think we're gonna, but I think people are gonna completely erase their early years. I'm glad I didn't have social media.
Oh, yeah, I think we all are glad we didn't have media. That's no doubt. And I've heard stories like that as well. I know Bryce Harper, that baseball player, he was one of those guys that he was drinking water at every high school party, and he lived in Vegas. So Jesus, I mean, temptation was right there on his doorstep. I wanted to come back. Okay,
you can't
so
do it though. The Wayback Machine is the recording of everything on the internet.
Sure.
So you can try to scrub it, but
It's impossible.
It's there. Once it's on, it's there.
No, I agree 1,000%. I wanted to go back.
Hold on. TC, do you have something? Because you made a comment about the 1 minute, or was that just
No,
one off?
It's like a 3-man show tonight.
Yeah, that's.
I'm just answering questions. I'll shut up.
No. If you guys have anything to say, just raise your hand. That's the easiest way, because I can't see all of you because my camera here. I wanted to go back real quick. Obviously the Republicans cleaned house. Okay, there's no doubt about that. There's no argument about it. It's over. If you were going to give some advice to the Democratic Party, what would it be to kind of, okay, guys, you shit the bed. Either you got to flip this or try this, or you're just going to, your party's going to dissolve, basically. Bill Geiser, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think if you lose the presidential election, the Senate, the House, Electoral College, the popular vote, and you still say I lost because half the country is racist, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, the list goes on, you're going to lose again in 2028.
Okay. TC?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think people need to take a look in the mirror. I think that both parties are out of touch. Like I said last week, I think they both need to get back to doing what government was designed to do. They need to get out of programs and get back into people.
I like that. Zach?
My honest opinion is I don't think either party should exist. So I think they both just need to stop. None of them. I don't think either party has the best interest of the country or the people at its heart. And I think, I mean, my hope for the Democratic Party was that they would actually be moral and scientific. And so, but I don't think that's going to happen. And so I don't think there's any hope for either party at the end of the day.
Okay. Gru?
I think if they listen to people, to real people in real lives and not calling everybody names, they would benefit next time around. If they keep calling us Nazis and, other words, are going to be the same defeat as yesterday.
Crazy man?
I agree with TC. It's like you need to listen to the people and be genuine. Stop thinking that you're all high and mighty. You need to come down and understand what makes us move and deal with everyday life. I don't think they would actually know how much a gallon of milk costs or how much it does cost to put gas in your car to go from your job back and forth. I think they need to get back in touch. And I think truthfully, it's both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, Pete?
I agree with all that. I think there just to be mandatory town halls, man. You got to have town halls with your constituents. You have to give them access to hear from them directly, but also to stand there and take questions from them. There needs to be more accessibility, I think.
Or heat.
Yeah, no, both exactly. But
Yeah.
but so many people on both sides. They don't have town halls for the whole year.
Correct. I agree.
And then Chalice.
Just over. I'm over being lectured. I'm just fucking plain and simple. But both parties, more so one party than the other. I've done more for this fucking country than 90% of the people in it. And what I'm sick of is being called a fucking racist bigot, a goddamn piece of trash. I'm over it. I can't stand it. I'm done with the name calling. If you want to fucking go stand up for this country and go put a fucking gun on your back and go to combat, fucking by all means, go try it. But the purpose is 80% of this country ain't got the fucking balls to do it. I volunteered 3 times. I volunteered for the Army, I volunteered for the Airborne, and I volunteered for the Special Forces. And it pisses me off that I got to sit back and have some asshole turn around and call me a fucking racist piece of shit. I'm over it.
Hey,
It's
Nick,
all
do you think
everyone thinks it's fucking funny, but it's not. I'm fucking over it. You guys, I'm telling you, man, you can only treat guys like me for like shit for so long. And both these parties need to understand that. That's not threatening. That's not any of that fucking hyperbolic bullshit. It's the truth. You can only call these guys that went to combat and fought for your asses for so long a piece of trash and a piece of shit before we're going to lose our shit. Right? I'm over it. And both parties do it. I'm sick of being called fucking Hitler and a goddamn fascist. Hey, guess what? Go to Afghanistan and see how those people live. Go to I'm not talking, and don't give me this bullshit about I lived in Europe. Fuck Europe.
No.
Europe is a first world country. Go live in a third world country where everyone drives on dirt roads and fucking lives in grass huts, mud huts, and they live like it's the Stone Age with cell phones and guns. Right? And I guarantee you will come back crawling to this country thinking it's the best thing that's ever been. This is the greatest country on the planet. I've been to 30 of them. And I haven't just been to tourist attractions. I lived in a bamboo hut for 6 months in the Philippines. And both parties do it. And I'm just fucking over it, man. My blood boils when I hear that shit.
Chalice, good luck following that.
I'll do my best. I'm not going to give pushback to Umble on this because he didn't actually say what I'm giving pushback to, but so I'm not following up Umble, but I got to give pushback even to the guys I agree with. I don't think that we can look at the results last night and say that both parties are out of touch. You don't get a landslide victory like that. And whether you agree with what one party's doing or not, you don't get a landslide victory like that by being out of touch with the voters. They are the Republican Party, and as someone who lives in a blue area, younger than 30 person, so under 30 typically tends to shade blue. The amount of change that is happening I can't speak to other blue areas, but I can speak to the amount of change that is happening, at least around me in Philadelphia, compared from 4 years ago even to now. The amount of Trump signs, the amount of people who are unapologetically posting pro-Trump, the amount of people who are going out and voting Trump. That's not a party that's out of touch with the complaints of the everyday man. And I think for the Democrats, it would serve them well, so I hope they don't do it, to look in the mirror before the next election and not talk down to everyday regular people and say, you're dumb if you don't vote for us. Like the lady on The View today, uneducated women failed us. That's not going to win favor. So whether we agree or not, I think with a landslide like that, it shows that one side is out of touch with a large portion of the country, while the other side, if you disagree with doing all the podcast circuits instead of, the more traditional avenues, one party got their messaging out there and it resonated with a lot of people.
It's got a good point. Guys, I want to thank you all for being on Decades tonight. Welcome, Pete. Good job for everybody. Hopefully we're going to do this again. Remember, everyone that's watching, we've got 2 types of Decades. We've got Decades Light, which Sub 60 will host. It's more of, let's just say,
light and chill. It's not just light and chill. We're light and chill.
This is more Decades Thunderdome, where the topics are a little bit more spicy, so to speak. Want to thank everyone for being on. Sub 60 Ed, who is the winner tonight?
Well, it was going to be Bill. Going to be Bill. However, with Nick's last little speech, Mr. Rumble gets the nod because he's just animated as fuck, and we love him for that. And he's just a man. And I can't. Pete shared it last night with Zach, and I can't give Pete back to back. That would show preferential treatment for a fellow classmate. So
Cheers, guys.
But great job, guys.
See you next week.